All right, well then I'll just go ahead and throw the recording on here. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. This is the first time I think I've actually gave an introduction to just what the hell is going on here. I usually just kind of pick it up in the middle of a conversation and go from there. We're here today with Tavor, and Tavor has a dream to share with us, so you can just kind of give me some context for it, or you can launch right into it, however you want to start.
Okay.
Maybe I could start by asking how many years ago did you have this dream, or was it recent?
Yeah, it was only like less than a week ago.
Oh, okay. Good deal. Well, I won't interrupt again. I just wanted to get a little context on that. So just kind of walk me through it from beginning to end. You fall asleep, or you are asleep, and the dream starts where?
I walk into this sort of rustic looking bar interior, with all this wood and stuff, like it's a wood cabin or whatever made into a bar. And walk in, start serving drinks to this sort of Hispanic motorcycle gang, because I feel like they're gonna just shoot me for no reason. I have no idea why I felt like they would, but it just seemed at the moment that they might. And so before I drop, the drinks off at their table, my right arm swells up right at the, right on the joint where close to the elbow. And it just, swells up to say this, what you want to call it, like a large pimple or whatever. And so I'm wondering what is happening, and it's starting to hurt. So I immediately excuse myself and go to the corner of the building, and I try to pop it as much as I don't like to do that. And what comes out is this sort of, 4 centimeter long maggot, and it just comes out and falls to the floor. And I reel back in disgust. Oh, what is this? Why? What is happening? And then suddenly, my entire arm starts forming those pimple things again. And I'm wondering, what is happening now? And out comes from each of those, pimple things, come out more maggots. But they don't fall to the floor, they stay on my arm. And immediately after coming out of my arm, they turn into very small little millipedes. And as they move about on my arm, they sort of leave these crystalline structures attached to my skin. And it has these little structures are no more than 3 centimeters off of my arm, but they're, attached part of my skin. And I can't break them off because it hurts when I do so, or try to. Or I can't break some of them off at all. And these little crystalline structure things have the texture of dry, spaghetti noodles. And from there, I just wake up. Suddenly, and that was it. I mean, I hate to think back on this thing because it was an absolutely disgusting thing.
Oh, yeah. That was my first comment, too. I was like, that is truly body horror. That's an entire genre of horror film, the idea of the body doing things it's not supposed to or having growths. Yeah, I'm very grateful that you're willing to share it, because a lot of people would I just want to forget that as quickly as I can. But apparently it stuck with you well enough that you were like, maybe I should try to make sense of this.
Yeah, I mean, Usually I forget my dreams right away, but this one just stuck with me the whole entire day as hard as I tried to forget it.
Oh, sure. It seems like a very strong. What am I trying to say? Strong dream, an impactful dream. It seems like an intense dream. There's some kind of intensity to it that something going on in your mind, and your mind did not want to forget about it, even though you'd rather not think about it. Yeah, that's my just first impression. I'm gonna have to learn how to stop saying. So, what I typically do is have you go through it once, and then I want to go back through it again, and I'm gonna maybe start asking, well, definitely ask questions and for more details, and then hopefully by the end of that, between the two of us, we can try to put something together about what's going on here. So this was about 1 week ago, you said.
Yeah.
Do you remember any current life circumstances at that time? Were you under any particular kind of stress, or did you have any kind of traumatic experience at that time?
Not really. I mean, I've been at home for the past month, and I mean, I was starting a new job, a week later from that happening, but I wasn't stressed over it, so I don't know why it occurred to me.
Okay, you didn't feel particularly stressed about having a new job. Fair enough. Some people do, some people don't. Just out of curiosity, was it hard for you to be home for a month? Was that are you usually a more active or outgoing or social person?
Oh no, I enjoy being home. I don't like to do much.
Okay.
If I could stay home all day, I would.
Yeah, me too. Here's hoping I can make a career out of what I'm doing right now. I just kind of go from the bed to my garage, and it's not getting paid for yet, so we'll see. Okay, so that was just background. Just curious. Sometimes I forget to ask about that, so while it was on my mind, I wanted to just mention it. We can come back around. So at the very beginning of the dream, the first thing you remember is walking into a kind of rustic bar or wooden cabin. Do you remember actually being outside the building?
Let's say again. You cut out there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you remember being outside the building before walking into the bar, or is the first thing you remember walking
The thing
in?
I entered directly into a hallway. It started right from a hallway.
Okay. So you weren't in the main room full of the other persons yet. You were in a hallway?
Yeah, I mean, like a short entrance in door place.
Okay, so you knew that there was a door behind you? And
I
you
didn't
had,
look behind me, so I don't know if there was a door, but I'd assume so.
you had the feeling that you had just entered from somewhere, and at the other end of the hallway was the room with the people in it?
Right.
Sorry. Portland, Oregon, still on fire. Yes. Do you remember anything about the hallway? Was it large or small? Was it plain, or do any features
short.
stand out?
I mean, it was less than a few meters, and then you were in the big main area.
So you didn't have to walk very far
No, not
to
at
get
all.
there. Do you remember having any sense of wanting or not wanting to go forward into that room?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, I just sort of proceeding to walk in, and it felt like there was going to be people I knew in there, but I never saw anybody that I knew personally.
Okay. And do you remember? You gave a little bit of the details of the room. So you said it was kind of like a bar, wood, rustic, like a cabin. What were the visual images that gave you the cues that it was a bar or rustic?
Like when you go to those ghost towns or theme parks in America, and there's that cowboy looking old Western type of bar setup.
Okay.
Just, pretty much looking like that.
Gotcha. And if you could put in your memory, you're taking your first steps into that room. What do you see kind of to your left, to your right? What's straight ahead? How would you say the room is set up?
To my right were shorter tables, and closer to my right were support beams. And then to my left were the longer wooden tables, and about 3-4 tables away from me was the motorcycle gang guys.
Were they directly in front of you, off to your left, off to your right?
Yeah, off to my left.
Okay. Do you remember having any immediate thoughts or feelings the moment you saw they were there?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I just started to serve drinks, and when I got to them, I felt like they were going to shoot me for some reason.
Okay, so you didn't get that feeling until you approached them with the drinks.
Right.
Okay, so just to back it up a slight bit, because you're still standing, say, at the entrance to the room, you're noticing what is present that gives you the idea that it's a cowboy, Old West, ghost town looking place. Do you remember crossing the room to the bar?
The main bar, where they make all the drinks and whatnot, that was completely to the far left side, and I wasn't anywhere near that. So I don't know where I got these drinks from, but I just had them.
Okay, so you're actually standing in the entryway, and for some reason you have drinks already that you need to serve. Okay. Like, I'm writing as fast as I can. Sorry if there's dead air.
Unless you're live, you'll probably cut out a lot of this silence.
Actually, I don't really know how to edit like that. Maybe someday I will, but I'm just going to let it ride for now, and people can... hopefully people are kind of visualizing this along with us. I want them to, as much as I'm trying to get inside the dream with you, I want them to do that too. I want them to see what you're seeing as much as they can, as just descriptive as we can be. So maybe someday, I'll chop it down, or not. Maybe this is a winning formula. We'll see. So you're standing there in the entryway, and you realize you've got these drinks, and you have this sense of a need to serve the drinks to the bikers.
Right.
Okay. How did you know they were bikers? What did you see that told you that visually or behaviorally?
Just the way they're dressed. They have the leathers on, the leather vests, and all the tattoos and
Okay.
And the patches. So it pretty much the answer was right there.
Okay, gotcha. Do you remember how many of them there were?
Just 2.
Just 2. Okay. Does anything stand out to you about how they might have been different from each other? One had blonde hair, one had a scar over his nose, that kind of thing. Any distinguishing features?
No, they had a pretty much average look to them. Nothing out of the ordinary, dark hair, darker tan skin. Average Hispanic looking guys.
Okay, fair enough. Sometimes I ask questions that are absolutely irrelevant, and it's just part of the process. Sometimes I hit on something, and it inspires. As I said in my last one, sometimes I rattle a door, it doesn't come open, we go down to the next door. Excuse me. So, do you remember what they were doing? Were they talking to each other, ignoring you? Were they locked on you immediately, like they knew you were there and they were waiting for you to approach?
Yeah, they were looking at me as I approached, giving me this sort of mean look.
Did you get the feeling that they expected you to bring the drinks and that that's what they wanted, or?
Yeah, I guess so, since I was pretty much the only one there serving drinks.
Okay. Did you get the sense that they expected you to bring the drinks and they wanted you to? Did you have any sense of why they were angry or giving you mean mug or?
I don't have any idea except maybe they could sensed or had this sort of they were informed earlier by some other entity that I myself was also, you know, riding motorcycles.
So maybe they looked at you as a potential threat, a potential rival or enemy.
Possibly.
Okay. And do you remember how you crossed the room? What your behavior was? You know, confident stride, hesitant steps,
Just normal,
just
normal
a
steps, stride.
normal walking along. As you approached them, did you stop short of reaching the table, or did you go right up and put the drink straight down?
Yep. Served a few drinks to the table before that, and then walked up to theirs with, a, you know, more on the tray that appeared magically. Though I didn't watch them appear, but the tray was full again once I got to them.
Okay. And then you put. Did they do anything when you served them, or did they just kind of stared at you?
Yeah, kind of stared at me still.
Okay. Did they drink the drinks? Were you aware of that at all?
That is something I cannot remember.
Okay. And it's possible that it was not a part of the dream. Like you just never dreamed that they actually did something with the drinks, poured them out,
Right.
ignored them, drank them.
Yeah.
So it was after you had served the drinks that suddenly you noticed your arm had something was going on with your right elbow.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the first sensation or experience? Was it a thought that something was wrong? Was it an itch, an instance of
It
pain?
was a sort of, yeah, a dull, aching pain.
Okay. And then did you immediately cross over to, you said, a corner of the room, or was there, did you try to continue on with what you were doing and ignore it?
I mean, I still had drinks on my tray, and when I said go to the corner, I sort
Yeah.
of took about 12 steps back from their table towards a support beam to, kind of take myself out of view of everyone.
Okay. So you didn't serve any more drinks. It was like as soon as you noticed something was wrong with your arm, you
Yeah, and I
moved
tried
away.
to move back again. I mean, yeah, like I just said, took steps back without trying to spill the drinks.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, which hand had the platter with the drinks on it? Was it your right arm? Or were you carrying that in your left?
Yeah, that was my left.
Okay. Okay. So you said that you walked backwards, and what the purpose of that was to get kind of out of view near a pillar, and you felt that when you stopped moving, you were at a place where other people couldn't see you.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay. I just went to, sorry, not to break the mood, but I just went to Fred Meyer's earlier and I got a whole stack of new notepads because I go through a ton of these. I just write down everything in huge chicken scratchy letters. Yeah, that's my process. And no one can read my chicken scratch but me, so this is. So you you're out of view. You didn't spill the drinks. You've still got the platter in your left hand. Did you set it down?
Not to my knowledge. I believe I was still holding it because there was nowhere to put it down except on the floor.
Okay. And then, so how did you inspect your right elbow, was it? How do you remember turning your attention to that? Did you raise your arm up and look at it over your shoulder, or what do you remember about that?
Put your arm up and look to your right. There it was.
Okay. And then can you kind of describe exactly what you saw? Or as best you can. I say exactly. Sorry. Just describe what you saw when you looked at it. I think I might have lost you. Oh,
Yeah, no.
yeah, there you are.
I had the wrong button on. Here, I mean, it was sort of like, like when a wasp stings you, or there's a tick in your arm, or like a sort of welt, large pimple, that looked like that.
So it was a swollen place. Do you remember the skin being discolored?
Yeah, red.
Okay.
Completely red.
Was it like a dark red, a light red, just a mild irritation? Did it change and become a darker red over a brief period of time? Or did it stay? Well, what color would you describe it?
Like kind of. It was, what colors of like a swelling area looks like. Just that.
Okay.
General
Just a
red
kind of
color.
flushed pink,
Yeah.
darker pink skin tone. Okay. It
Yeah.
didn't change into any unusual colors.
No.
Did it before? Well, can you describe kind of how it changed as you were looking at it? Because you said it went from, well, it was a lump and then it became something else. So what did that kind of look like again?
Yeah, I mean, it was still the red, lump, swollen pimple area thing, and just like I said, out came the maggot thing, just suddenly when I tried to pop it, per se.
So you were looking at this reddish lump and you're like, that's not right, and you decide to pop it.
Yeah, or at least try to, and that's when, and then like I said, when I tried to, that's when it came out.
And you did also say that that's not typically something you do in your waking life. You leave pimples alone, let them go away.
Yeah,
Okay.
I always try to do that, so I don't know why I did that in the dream.
Yeah. So, you described trying to pop it. Did you try to pop it with your left hand? So you reached over,
my left.
and
Though
suddenly,
when my left, but I don't know where. When I tried to pop it, I don't know where the tray went. It just wasn't in my hand anymore when I tried to.
okay. Okay, and then I'm kind of doing a motion with my arm too. I'm looking at like it was on the outer end near the funny bone, near the tip of the elbow, the pointy bit is where it was, or where exactly near your elbow was it?
Yeah, like if you have your elbow pointing outwards, just like the top area.
Okay, so if you've say got your shoulder out kind of straight off to your right hand side and your arm bent, it was kind of on the top above the
Yeah.
crease, between the
Yeah.
crease and the bone.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I'm just trying to get an orientation there. So you reach over and try to squeeze it, and then
Yeah.
up from. Do you have a specific recollection of what it looked like as it came out?
It just sort of wriggled out at a fast speed. I mean, not not like super fast. It was just, quick.
Okay. Almost like that you didn't squeeze it out as much as you squeezed the lump it was in, and it decided, I'm out of here.
Sort of, yeah.
It moved itself out of the skin. Okay.
With the assistance of me.
Okay. And you said then it kind of just bloop, popped on the floor?
Yeah. Right on the floor.
Do you remember where it fell on the floor relative to, did it fall down the inside of your elbow, towards the outside?
Nope, just right on the floor, directly below, near my shoes.
Okay. Do you remember what it did when it hit the floor? Did it splatter? Did it get up and crawl away, or?
No, it remained in its shape. It didn't explode. It didn't die or anything, at least not to my knowledge.
Okay.
And from once after that, I didn't pay any attention to it because, the rest of my arm was.
Okay. So basically, you did the squeeze, it falls out, it hits the floor, and it's at that moment you realize you got more pimples,
Right.
and they're also on your right arm?
Yeah, on my right arm, downwards from the very first one to about before my wrist.
Okay. So basically like the right forearm.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember having a sense of how many there were?
It was a lot. I mean, I don't know an exact number. It was just a lot.
Yeah, no. So if we were to just conceptualize it
No
was
more than 15, though.
no more than gotcha. It wasn't 1,000, but it wasn't 2. So we got a ballpark of it. So maybe a dozen ish.
Yeah.
And then what did you do, or what happened? Did you go to squeeze another one, or did you
Nope,
just
they
watch?
came out by themselves.
They came out all by themselves. Okay. But instead of falling to the ground like the other one did, these ones stayed on your arm.
Right.
And I don't think I actually asked the maggot thing. I do remember you said it was about 4 centimeters long, so it was very small and kind of fatty, like it
Yeah.
looked like an actual real life maggot.
Yeah, about the size of a large regular maggot.
And it was kind of a white, off white cream colored
Yeah.
look. It didn't look anything unusual.
Nope.
Okay. And the other ones that came out, they all looked the same.
Right, yeah.
But instead of falling off onto the floor, you said they started to crawl around on your arm?
Yeah, I mean, immediately after coming out, they sort of transformed into, very tiny millipedes.
Okay. Do you have a sense of watching them transform, how it happened?
I mean, they'd come out and elongate, and then they were millipedes.
Did they change color?
I mean, they were, from normal, maggot white to sort of a beige centipede type of color.
Gotcha. So it wasn't
They
as
were
if
still millipedes.
maggots just sprouted legs. It actually turned into kind of like a different kind of bug.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm wondering with millipedes, because there's centipedes, millipedes, and potato bugs. You know what those are? The little roly-polies.
Right.
It was not a roly-poly, right? Not the hard-shelled
Right, yeah.
with the legs. Okay, and it wasn't a centipede necessarily, which basically just looks like a long, thin potato bug, roly-poly. It was actually how would you describe
ball.
millipede? Yeah.
Yeah, more legs.
Okay.
Not as pronounced antenna.
Okay. I think I'm not getting a great visual image, but I think it's my fault. It's nothing you're doing. I'm just not seeing. I almost feel like the shape of the bug might be interesting, but the fact that it's a millipede is definitely relevant to something. So I didn't want to. I don't want to waste too much time trying to get my own brain straight on a visual image. But so you said they instantly kind of transformed. They bloop, they eject themselves. They kind of wriggle out, and then bam, turn right into these millipedes, and they start crawling around on your skin.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Did they crawl around in, say, each their own random direction, or did it seem like they were moving together for any purpose, or in any kind of pattern?
Oh, just on their own.
Okay. And then you said wherever they moved, they left behind them this trail,
Yeah, these crystalline structures.
crystallines, and you said it was about the size or the circumference of a spaghetti noodle.
Yeah, they had the texture of dry spaghetti noodles, and about just the width of it too.
Okay.
But they were hard and attached to my skin.
And you said it was the texture and
Yeah, the
general
texture.
size and shape, but then was it also the same color of a spaghetti noodle? It was kind of a yellowish,
Yeah,
but you got the distinct sense that it was this crystalline. You said.
yeah, because dry spaghetti noodles, they're easy to break, whereas this was like hard and like a rock crystal.
Okay. I wondered if crystal, and this is why I ask, and there's no wrong answer, there's never a wrong answer. Because the image I had in my mind of a spaghetti noodle is it's opaque and kind of, what am I trying to say? It's kind of a matte color, it's a dull. And I wondered if these trails had a shine to them, if they looked kind of like you'd imagine a crystal would.
Half of them did, half of them didn't. It was sort of like a mixed as they were formed.
Okay. So some had kind of a crystal shine to the spaghetti noodles, and some of them were more dull.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get a sense of a distinction between the two kinds of strands?
Not really, since it was all they would, it was. How do you describe this? It would come out as they were formed. It would go, from shiny to dull to shiny again and whatnot.
Okay. Well, they would the strands themselves would change their appearance.
It would they would come out as random or whatever. It wasn't in any sort of pattern. It was.
Okay. So one bug dispensing one strand, sometimes it would come out looking crystalline, and sometimes it would come out looking a little more dull in the same strand.
Right.
Okay, so it was kind of variable, even not just between bugs, but the strand itself was variable from the same bug.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're focusing down on a really short section of the dreams right at the end, right before you woke up. But what do you remember from the moment you saw them all pop out and they transformed and they started moving around? You said they were hard and couldn't be broken off. How did you discover that? Did you reach over and try and...
If you see something growing on your arm, you don't want that there. So
right, for sure.
You try and break it off, but like I said, it's either impossible to break since it's hard like a rock, or it hurts to break off because they are apparently one with my skin.
Gotcha. Do you remember exactly how you did that? Like, I imagine if there's a bug on me, sometimes I do a swipe to try and brush it off. Or did you go and take your fingertips and try and lift the strand off of you?
I sort of, like when you grab your hair That's the kind of motion I tried to do.
You did kind of a claw-handed clutch to kind of
Yeah, and-
scrape them off.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when they wouldn't come off, and you felt pain, you're like, "Whoa!" That's you stopped trying to remove it.
True, yeah.
And then, how soon after that clutching, scraping motion did you wake up?
Pretty much right after that, like less than 2 minutes of staring at it or trying to take it off.
So it wasn't just one grasping, clutching scrape to try and remove it. You actually tried to pick at it a little bit. You used maybe a variety of techniques and tensions to try and...
I only tried to break it off twice before I stopped because, it was hurting to try to break them. But after that, I sort of stared at them in shock and disgust.
Okay. And do you recall the millipedes having any kind of reaction to you trying to remove the noodles?
Not really.
They just kept doing what they were doing, ignored you?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. Do you remember ever trying to touch one of them and remove the millipede?
I did not try to.
Okay. So you stared just like in shock and disgust for a period of time and then woke up?
Yep. Just like
Okay.
that.
Interesting. Very interesting. I like this. This is pretty much every dream is fascinating to me. But I like these ones that have such intensity and vivid imagery, and especially disturbing imagery. It's like, yeah, it's got to mean something. And I know we talked a little bit about what was going on in your life at the time, and you said that you were about a week out from starting a new job, but you didn't actually feel any waking life stress about that?
No, not at all.
Okay. And that you were spending a lot of time at home, and that you prefer to stay home, and that's a comfortable place for you.
Yeah.
To be home alone is just fine.
Yeah.
You were saying you were starting a new job, so you'd been out of work for a minute?
Yeah.
Kind of COVID related?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Were you worried about finances at all during that time?
I can't really say. I mean, I've got enough to last for a bit, but if I go below a certain amount, then I get worried.
Then you get
Was
worried.
I below that amount? Not really.
So you were not below that amount. Was that amount, like, if you didn't get a job, and if the job didn't work out, were you likely to start hitting the danger zone?
I'd guess so, yeah.
Okay. And without getting into the details of the job itself, I don't need to know who you work for or what the job is. But is it a job you felt confident you were going to perform well at, like you've done it before, and everything was going to be just fine?
I can't say how I'd perform, but I've been through worse, so I haven't been really worried about any, new jobs or since then.
Okay. So it wasn't like you had just a lot of anxiety about the job failing or going poorly. And you being, again, without an income source and then having to eat into savings.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Um, um, Going back through my notes here. So it says the first memory you had was you're actually in the hallway, and the hallway's very short, and you don't remember having any kind of hesitation or doubt about going where you're going. You felt like it was a place you needed to be or were obligated to be.
I don't know why I was there. It just, pretty much started that way, and there was no escape once it. So just might as well follow through.
Okay, so you remember having that feeling of like you being committed to something that you had to just go ahead and get it over with, go through with it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And you mentioned having the feeling that there were going to be people that you knew in the room.
Yeah, I sort of felt like that, but was I sure they were in there? No.
Was it kind of a hopeful feeling of I hope these people will be there, or they should be there, but I don't know if they actually will be? Well, how would you describe it?
It's sort of this feeling like they're there because they're always there, but
Okay.
I didn't see them. I didn't know who it was going to be. It was just that kind of feeling.
Okay. So it's as if some people who were typically present, like you've been to this place before, you kind of know the regular crowd, and you're friendly with at least some of them, and you expected, well, they'll probably be there because they usually are.
Yeah,
But in this certain case, they were absent.
right.
Okay. And
Or
you
they
don't.
could have been there. I didn't see them or
Sure.
look for them.
Yeah, and in your experience of the dream, your experience was you didn't see them. So as far as you knew, they weren't there, or at least your attention in the dream wasn't brought to them as people who were present to serve some purpose. I mean, so what we could probably draw from that is that for all intents and purposes, if you didn't see it, it didn't happen. So they weren't present. And
True, yeah.
yeah, and that's all we can. It's kind of by exclusion, nothing. We don't want to second guess and say, I don't know, they might have been behind me the whole time. They might have. Do you have any strong memories of being in Old West ghost town locations? Is that something you grew up with, or something you enjoyed as a kid, or are you a fan of the genre in general?
Not really. I mean, there was a time where Western stuff was somewhat semi-popular in Germany, Central Europe area, but that was just a short window, but it didn't have any impact on me at all.
Okay, it wasn't like it's not like your favorite genre. Like mine would probably be fantasy or sci-fi. Some people it's cowboys and ghost towns. Fair enough. I'm just wondering why that particular kind of place. Usually of course the nature of a particular building is going to have something to do with why you're there, what happens there. Do you have any emotional content or ways of thinking about the Wild West, the cowboy area? Is it? I don't want to put words in your mouth by making suggestions, but when you think about that, what comes to mind?
I don't know. There's no significance to that type of stuff to me at all, except right now I sort of live in a desert, but
Okay, so your current surroundings kind of remind you of the place a Wild West ghost town might be.
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay. Um, I don't know what to make of it, but it's kind of interesting that on the right are short tables, and then on the left are long tables.
Yeah, it's just because of the way the building was made. So there's between the support beams, the room was less wide on the right, and it was
Gotcha.
longer.
Okay.
So
It's kind of it made sense in your mind at the time.
yeah,
And then that was over on the right that the bikers were sitting.
no, the bikers were on the left.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I did. You're right. You're right. I wrote that down. I just didn't. Well, maybe I really can't read my own handwriting. Writing as fast as I can. So they were actually near, say, the main bar.
Yeah,
Okay. And then you had no memory of how a platter with drinks on it got into your hands, but suddenly it was there, or you became aware of it.
yeah,
Okay. It it seems interesting to me, and this is, I mean, you got to tell me if these things resonate. If I just start coming up with your stuff and it's like, no, that doesn't mean anything to me, that's perfectly fine. I'm just, as I said, rattling doors. It seems to me like there might be something significant in the idea that you're, as you said, you kind of described it as saying, well, I'm here now. There's no escape. I got to go through with it. And suddenly you've got responsibility. I mean, you're literally carrying a physical burden in one hand, and you're expected to do something about it. When you think about that, what does that bring to mind?
I mean, I'm not somebody that likes to be rude or anything like that. I mean, if there's something that needs doing, I'll do it.
You're someone who takes responsibility seriously.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay. So even though you thought the bikers were mean mugging you, that they might be dangerous, that they might just decide they don't like you enough to do something about it, you still felt you were obligated to take that risk and follow through?
Yeah. Still felt obligated to. If I'm gonna serve drinks to everyone else, why wouldn't I do them?
Okay. Just to kind of be a little more clear on that point, were you concerned that they would take it in an offensive manner if you ignored them? And so you're like, I better keep them happy? Or was it like, I just need to be fair, and even if they're unfriendly, I'm still going to serve them because they're customers?
Yeah, fairness.
Okay. Sorry about that. There may or may not be anything significant to the idea that you were serving other people and you never had no memory of going to the bar. You just kept having more drinks appear. It could be on one side, dreams are magical, mysterious places, and for whatever reason, your mind didn't care where the drinks came from. It was just more important that they were there and you had to do something with them. Then again, it might be significant that the drinks kept appearing. The thought comes to my mind that there was, even when the tray was empty, it just filled itself again. Like the responsibility was automatic, kind of self-sustaining or never-ending. Does that make sense?
Like a cornucopia.
Yeah. Does that bring anything to mind too? You have any thoughts on that?
not really. Doesn't, not that I can think of at least at the moment.
Sure. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Sometimes that, again, rattling doorknobs. Yeah, there might be something to that, and we can, maybe we'll never figure it out, or maybe we come back around to it. But I think there is something in that imagery of, or the experience of the never-ending burden. The drinks just keep appearing, and you got to do something with it. Do you have that? Do you have that sense in any other areas of your life that responsibilities just keep coming onto you, and well, you got to deal with it. You might as well get it over with. You might as well do something about it, because the drinks are just going to keep appearing.
I don't know if it has any relation to me living alone and having to take on everything here, but
That could be. It might be related. I mean, you're the ultimate judge of that. So you say you live alone, and all of your everything is your responsibility. You are completely responsible for yourself. No one's going to swoop in to take that burden off of you. You got to deal with it.
right, yeah.
Do you not have and again, if I ever ask anything that's like you don't want to talk about it, you just say so. We move on to a different subject. But having said that, do you have what you would consider to be a sufficient group of friends, relatives, support structure, anyone you could turn to if you needed to?
Well, I mean, let's sort of, it's a really long story, but to cut it short
Yeah.
in a detailed sort of way, possibly, I immigrated to the US about 5 years ago, and so everything, once I got off that plane, I was by myself except for the clothes in my bag and, the money I had.
Okay.
I can't turn back to family because I'd have to go all the way back to Europe for that. And I
Okay.
mean, we weren't rich to begin with, so it's not like they can help me.
Okay. And it's not like they wouldn't want to. You're not estranged from them. They're just
Not at all.
mostly unable to help. It really is all on you just by virtue of the circumstance.
Right, yeah.
Okay. What we got here? So we got down to the end of the bikers and the drinks, and that's when you noticed. So this was soon. What was it? The end of the bikers. You didn't see them drink, but it was immediately after you served the bikers that you got
Right.
the elbow thing.
Right.
Okay. Did you, just to back it up a little bit, did you get a sense that you were putting off serving them and going to serve other people first, or was it just you were kind of hitting it in order of operation across the room?
Yeah, just in order of the tables.
Okay. So serving the bikers was really the final
Yeah.
responsibility. Okay.
Right.
And then after that final responsibility was completed, then you noticed the bump or
Right.
the pain, and that's when you looked and you saw that there was a bump.
Or I felt it first and then I looked.
Yes, that's what I was going back through my notes here. How long would you say you looked at it before you decided you needed to back up out of view? What were you thinking about getting out of view? What was the reason for that?
I mean, I'm not going to do it in front of people who are at the table. That's just gross, and
Okay.
so I backed away.
So it was kind of a courtesy not to gross people out by doing
Yeah.
something in front of them.
Right.
Okay. And then you got where you were out of view and you felt people couldn't see you. And that's when you still realized you had the platter in your hand, or was it gone by the time you hit that corner, that out of the way spot?
It was still there for just a bit.
Okay. But it was when you decided to reach for the arm that it disappeared.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I think there's something in that. You have a sudden personal emergency, and at that moment is when the never-ending platter of responsibility suddenly disappears, and you have a free hand to be able to take care of yourself. Does that make sense?
Sorta.
Yeah, maybe you could help me try and describe it differently. You said it sort of makes sense. What's a better way to put that?
Or, I mean, sort of expound on that a bit more so I can
Oh,
get
yeah,
a better
that's,
idea.
and again, this is just my first impression of trying to why that sequence of events? Why does an image appear? Does an object disappear? What's the motivation for that? What's a trigger for changes in the physical environment, things appearing or disappearing? Is usually, so it was from the moment you walked in until you had that bump appear on the elbow, that platter was with you, and it kept refilling itself, and through the desire to satisfy responsibilities, and not to be rude. You go through people, first come, first served, and you get to the folks that you weren't sure you were going to be safe serving, but they still deserved good service in your opinion. But then after that, after all that work was done, still have the platter in your hand, and you back up, and you've got, the way I'm trying to describe it, or poorly, is suddenly you have something that is not a responsibility to others, but to yourself. Now you have a personal crisis. Something's wrong with me. And that, at that moment, is when the platter of responsibility disappeared. Is that kind of making sense?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it seems like it's related to starting the new job, but again, I had no, worries or stress about it, so I don't.
Yeah, and I didn't, I may have put too much emphasis on that too. I wanted to dig around a little bit and just make sure, but I should also trust you to know yourself. And if you were stressed about a new job, you'd say, yeah, I was stressed. I don't think you're withholding anything. But you do seem like the kind of person who wouldn't complain. Are you typically someone who, you don't bellyache about shit that's just got to get done? You just do it, and why complain? It's not going to change anything.
I mean, I'll complain in my mind like this sucks or whatever, but I don't make an uproar about it, and I'll still do it regardless.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's consistent with the idea of moving yourself out of view. You're not going to make a spectacle of, oh my God, look everyone, my arm. You're going to go out of the way. As you were saying, kind of in your own mind, you'll complain about it. You'll deal with it privately instead of putting on a public display. Well, relating that back to the idea of the job stress, I mean, I assume you would just tell me if you felt that way, because why not? I'm just some asshole stranger on the internet. But also, it may have been somewhat related to the idea that, you feel stress differently. Like there's things that are really stressful, and then there's just daily life stress. And if it's daily life stress, it's not real stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you felt about starting a job? Of like, well, this is going to be stressful, but it's normal stress, so it's not noteworthy.
Right. Yeah. Pretty much, I'd say.
Okay, fair enough. Again, not to focus down too much on the job, but I did ask you if you were confident you could do the work? Like you felt like that you weren't taking a big risk, or there wasn't a great likelihood it was going to fail immediately? Like you weren't going to get fired right away?
I wouldn't think so, but I mean,
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily a change in career. You weren't going from one thing to another, where you were untested. You were pretty confident in your ability to do the job.
I mean, I didn't know if I would 100% pass because the probationary period's a long time, but I feel like I could probably still do it.
Okay. Fair enough. So you had that kind of self-confidence about it, even though it was a normal amount of worrisome.
Right.
Okay. So the you got to the corner, and that's when you noticed the bump was there. This is the really interesting part. I mean, there's kind of two sections of the dream, and we just got through the first one. And I tried to pull as much as I could out of that, and we can go back through it again, see if there's something more to tease out. But the second half is distinctly something different and connected, but it's definitely a part two to the dream. It's like now everything changes. Did you notice any change in the environment in terms of sensations or visuals? Like, I didn't ask you anything about that. I mean, was there like one of those old piano players going? Were there any sights or sounds? Was it people talking when you first walked in?
I had no recollection of that, or I believe it was just I can't describe it exactly well.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no immediate images of sights or sounds. No, like I said, no player piano going, no clinking glasses, no conversation.
Right.
Okay. So whatever that felt like and sounded like or looked like in the first half of the dream, did it sound, feel, look the same in the second? Did the lighting change? Did the activity change? Were you still aware that there were other people present?
Yeah, I mean, the people were still there, but nothing else changed about the surroundings or anything.
Okay, fair enough. And you think during your whole experience of dealing with the bugs, nobody could see you?
They could probably see my back and whatnot, but for the most part, what I intended to hide from view was pretty much hidden.
Okay. And you didn't get a feeling that people were watching or trying to pay attention or trying to sneak a peek?
Right, yeah, for the most part.
Okay. And this is where, I mean, this is probably the most, I can't say it's the most significant part, but it's the part that I think has the most meaning if we can grab onto something. Speaking of grabbing onto something, you reached over and again, the platter's suddenly gone from your hand. You have now a free hand. You have the cornucopia of responsibility or never-ending platter of drinks. Poof, gone. No sense you set it down. You didn't throw it. It was just gone, just disappeared. And that's when you reach over and you squeeze. You decide to take some kind of an action to alleviate the pain in your arm.
Right, yeah.
And you said that's not something you usually do physically in the real world, specifically
True.
with pimples. What do you think about that? When you kind of focus in on that a little bit, what do you think it was at that moment that made you decide, I don't normally do this, but this time I'm gonna squeeze it?
I don't know. It was just something I did then. It was only after I woke up throughout the day thinking about it that I said, that's not something I normally do.
Yeah, I think there's something significant to that it's different than what you would do under the same circumstances when awake? I mean, you've never had, say, like a bot fly, or have you had a tick or something that you had to try to squeeze out, some kind of a burrowing insect thing in the real life ever?
Nope. Nope.
No experience with like parasites or anything?
Not at all.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, I think we've all seen enough nature programs or television or heard horror stories. We can kind of imagine what it would be like.
Oh yeah.
So you felt this pain intense enough to draw your attention and inspire you to say, I have to do something about it, like it's necessary? Or what do you think was that? How would you characterize that motivation to reach for it and squeeze?
Like, what is happening? Why I have to try and fix this?
So it was an intense kind of desire to address an immediate problem, and the motivation was, you say, maybe the pain or the discomfort was,
Yeah.
or was it something else? Was it not as painful relatively, but you still felt compelled? How would you describe that?
I mean, the pain was enough to where I said, listen, it has to stop.
Okay.
Let's end it here. And there we go.
So even if it was going to be painful to squeeze it, it's like this. It already hurts. I just got to do something about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's interesting that the first one just kind of bloop, wriggled its way out, left, like you put the squeeze to it, but that forced the bug to take action as well. Does that sound right?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
It feels to me like there's something significant there, in that you might have been forced to take action because of the pain, but then as a result of your action, the thing causing you pain was also forced to move. Like you were able to push back on it and make that pain stop, to give it an equal and opposite reaction. Does that sound right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to tell me, no, that doesn't make sense to me. Right now, I'm not feeling that. Anytime. What am I doing here? I don't know. We're just talking. And it was then almost immediately that a bunch of more pimples sprouted and the bugs just came out on their own without you doing anything else.
True. Yeah.
And it seemed like that was triggered by you squeezing.
Yeah, it's like
the one bug
original
out.
one just triggered them all.
That is interesting. Did you get a sense that if you had left it alone, things would have been better? Or did you get the sense that, what you did is what you had to do, and what happened afterwards was, what am I trying to say? You already did say that it felt like it was triggered by it. Like you squeezing out one bug caused the other ones to come out too.
Right. Well, yeah, but was it my intention to trigger the others? No. Did I know they were there? No. They just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something to that. I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. The idea that you've got a personal problem that is bad enough you are compelled to take some kind of an action to stop the pain, and that it is effective. You take effective action and you make the cause of that pain stop, and immediately a dozen more sources of pain spring to life. Does that resonate with you somehow? Is that, I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but what do you think about that idea?
That seems somewhat right, I'd say.
Do you feel like you have that experience in your waking life where you have the ability to take action to solve problems, but it seems like as soon as you solve one problem, there's a dozen more waiting around the corner? weighting down your arm?
I'd say they're not a dozen, or I haven't had any experience of one comes up right after the other, but I'd say, that's half right.
Half right. Okay. Maybe I'm expressing it wrong, but I think we're onto something in terms of are you usually juggling multiple problems at once, multiple things you have to kind of deal with on an ongoing basis?
Not really. I mean, I take things one at a time.
Okay.
Finish 'em, and
And you don't typically have the experience of being overwhelmed by too many problems?
yeah, I'd say so.
Had you had that experience at all lately? Having an experience where you attempted to fix a problem, you did it, but damn it, if there wasn't just a bunch of more things to fix almost immediately.
Have I? Maybe not. I can't think of that right now.
That's fine. Either it comes to mind or it doesn't. Again, I'm rattling doorknobs, grasping at straws, trying to make sense of it. Maybe again, I'm phrasing it wrong. Do you have a concern that kind of a thing will happen? That you'll be going along, everything will be fine, you'll be taking care of business, there'll be a problem, and then another problem, and then another problem, and they'll kind of pile up suddenly? Is that something you worry about sometimes?
I'd say so.
You worry about maybe being overwhelmed suddenly, unexpectedly, by too many problems?
I mean, just thinking right now, this new job. Come the holiday season and whatnot, all this stuff might pile up, and then we have to deal with it. And I could be completely overwhelmed, because I mean, the whole business gets completely overwhelmed each year with it.
Okay, so the forthcoming holiday season at the business you're joining, it gets real busy. It's super busy in the holidays.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that we might be onto something. We might not. It's possible that the idea of being the responsible person that you are and taking care of business, and you've got these responsibilities you're always carrying around with you, and you just take care of it one at a time, one after the other, even when it's unpleasant, even when you're not sure it's safe. You got to do what you got to do. It's possible that you're looking at, well, I solved one problem, I got a job, but you're already looking ahead to a dozen more down the road. You know it's going to be busy in the holiday season, and that's going to be stressful. And I don't know if that's making sense to you.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, feel free to tell me I'm wrong. I could be completely down the wrong road on this. I feel like I'm focusing too much on the job thing, and like there's not other possibilities. But I don't know. I don't know where to go with some of that. But I think it is also kind of significant that that once these creatures came out, they were no longer the squishy maggot that could fall down. They turned into a kind of a more threatening type of insect. And then they started laying trails that were coming from them, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that these trails were stuck to you. So even though they came out of your skin, they're not inside of you anymore. Now they're on the surface, but you're not rid of them. They didn't crawl away. They didn't fall off like the first one did. Now they're stuck there and they can't be removed. That, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that suggests to me a kind of future-oriented concern. It's like you can't remove it. You can't claw it away, and even trying to is painful. In a way, it seems like the pain was just a way of letting you know this isn't going anywhere. Don't try to avoid it. This is happening, and that's what gives me the idea of the future-oriented nature of the concern. Is that one thing you can't avoid is the future. The future is going to happen, and it might be as unexpected as bugs popping out of your arm, and laying down trails that represent those future fears, because you're stuck with it. You're stuck with the idea that these things could happen and you have to deal with it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
Do you have things coming up in the future, other outside of the job? Let's say we put that on the back burner for a minute. Do you have future fears, just in general, worries about anything? Yeah.
Huh. I mean, I can't really say for certain, but do I enjoy my time in America sometimes? No, but is it much better back home? Not too much. So it's
Kind
sort
of
of
same
50-50.
difference. Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of went to your environment when you considered that. Like I asked about the future, and you talked about going back where you came from. Is that what you relate to the future? The idea of where to go to make things better.
I prefer to go back home, but I have a lot more opportunities here, despite me
Okay,
not liking it too much.
fair enough. So there's a little bit of a frustrated desire there. Like you feel like your opportunities are better here, and you're a little ambivalent about what you want more, to be where you started around family, or to be in a place with better opportunities. Does that resonate?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Have you been waffling on that in your mind, trying to weigh the pros and cons, and have you been in a place of being indecisive about making a decision on that?
I'd say, yeah. Sort
Okay.
of like, do I either give up everything here and go back home, or do I stay here with all that stuff I just worked so hard for?
Oh yeah. Okay. How long would you say that's been on your mind? That question of what should I do? Has it just been the last week or the last month, or has it been?
Oh no, it's been like this for years.
And when you say years, how many years?
I mean, I've been here about like, I think
You said
5 years now.
So basically,
So-
ever since you got here, you have had that in the back of your mind of, was this a good decision?
Yeah, so since like 4 years.
Yeah.
Soon after I got here, the guy, one of my friends that I met online, who I was staying with, killed himself, and since then it's like, after that it's like, I've had those thoughts of going
Holy
back
shit.
or staying.
You said that was soon after you got here?
Yeah, like a year after.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty heavy. Did you do you feel like that's still affecting you today, or you kind of put it behind you? You're like, I mean, that can either ruin someone's life, or it can just be like, wow, that sucked, and people get over it, in different ways. How do you feel like that affected you long term?
I mean, it sucked because he was the most goofy guy I knew. I knew him for years and whatnot. And
Wow.
to have him not there, and not have a place to stay on, or
Oh,
a couch
yeah.
to sleep on for now was, rough for a bit.
Okay. So he was a good friend, and he wasn't just like an acquaintance that's like, hey, come on over, just like you barely knew him.
Yeah.
Okay. And ever since that happened, you've been trying to decide, should I undo this decision to go to America? And
Should I stay or should I go?
okay. And you feel like that's been kind of an active ambivalence in your mind for the past 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay. This, honestly, this might be a better tactic. Like, I feel like the job's a part of it, but this is probably more significant to you. This is like your entire life path. You stay here, you make that commitment, I'm going to do this. And not that you can't change your mind, but in your mind, it's like being, if I may, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but being someone who takes responsibility seriously, I imagine you're someone who follows through on their commitments. And if you make this decision, I'm going to give it a good go here, you're really going to give it a good go?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, when I got here, I told them, I'd work hard to stay and build a life and save up enough for myself. And I've sort of done that.
Do you feel kind of a responsibility to your family to succeed, to follow through on that promise?
Oh yeah, because I mean, again, none of us were rich, or we were really poor growing up. So it's like I felt the need to get above that, to come out of poverty.
And do you, in your mind, kind of conflate going home with giving up, failing to make good on that attempt to improve your life?
Yeah, I mean, going home also would mean I'd have to exchange all my money, and then, I mean, putting the exchange rate for dollars back home, I mean, have like twice the amount. But going home also would mean I'd have to give up a ton of rights that I have, like my guns and my motorcycles and vehicles and all this other stuff that I've worked so hard for.
Okay. So going home is tempting and even desirable, but it is also desirable to stay because you have a lot of things that you do like and want and maybe even future aspirations here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Now that we've gotten into a little bit of that, does just thinking of what we talked about maybe in the last 5 or 10 minutes, now shift yourself back into the dream and look at that a little bit in terms of future fears, indecisive, problems, responsibilities. I've got kind of a word cloud in my head of these concepts. What do you think? How do you think those mesh together? Any just kind of initial impressions?
Keep going off of that. Let's.
Yeah, I'm trying not to put words in your mouth, so to speak, or put ideas in your head, and that's something I hope I get better at as I go along in making these. But it seems like there's something there. I think we're pretty close to what's going on in the dream. I think it's mostly. Well, what can I say? It feels significant. It feels relevant. It feels important that you're having this long-term, ongoing, indecisive, conflicting desires. You want things here, and you want things the way they were, and you feel pulled in two different directions. And I think there's something in that you're getting expressed in the dream imagery.
I just say that sounds like it's related, Yeah.
So I'm just trying to dial in a little bit. I mean, I suppose again, I hate to say, make a pronouncement on what things mean. Like, I've figured it all out. I certainly haven't. But it seems to me, yeah, maybe I'll just keep kind of rambling until something clicks in my own mind too. So I think working the bar, you're there to do a job. It's got to be done, and you take care of business. That's who you are. And so you do what you got to do. But when that's done at the end, almost in a way like at the end of the day, once the work is done, once the work day is done, the responsibilities are done, now you've still got, or the idea that personal problems or personal issues, personal desires that are not just taking care of business, but this is like now I've done the work and I can think about what I really want. And it's not that you don't want to work. What am I trying to say? I'm not trying to say that. It's not that the work isn't also something important to you, fulfilling responsibilities, taking care of things. The idea of pain is very personal. The idea that at the end of the day, when the responsibilities are complete, there's still unresolved personal stuff that reminds you it's there in a painful way. And that when you try to address it, sure, you squeeze one, you get one idea resolved perhaps, and then there's immediately a dozen more. I'm wondering if that's related to the complications of decisions. Like you've got two paths in front of you. You stay here and you make a go of it, or you go home. And each one of those decisions has its own tree of consequences that grows from that. You imagine that like each. Is that image making sense?
Yeah.
You have a path that splits in two, and then each of those two paths splits into 1,000 more paths down each of those separate roads.
Right. Like cell division.
Yeah, like a branching. There's a word for it, and I'm probably going to kick myself. I'm going to look it up when we're done here, and I'm gonna think of it. It's not permutations, but that's kind of the idea that each one decision leads to two other possibilities, and you pick one of those, and that leads to two more down another path, and before you know it, it branches off into a million things. And some people, I know I get it myself, I get stuck in the planning phase of like, what is going to happen? I get stuck in trying to predict the future, trying to account for all the potential variables that are going to result from a choice. And sometimes I sit and I think about things for a long time before I do anything about it, because I'm not sure I've accounted for all the potential complications in a way that allows me to know it's a good decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
Do you think you have that experience yourself too, where you're stuck a little bit in knowing which path is going to result in the better consequences for you?
Yeah, I guess I could feel that.
I think that might be what the insects represent, is that it's a part of you. It's a pain you're experiencing. It's something inside of you, literally, and metaphorically in the dream, that if you do something to scratch that itch or squeeze the pain, it's going to necessarily create a new set of problems that you can't avoid. And you might be stuck in that. Well, it sounds like you are stuck in a place of indecision where you're hesitant to commit to a path, either stay or go, because you know as soon as you do, you're going to have to deal with those other problems and you won't be able to avoid it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. And then just thinking about the dream in general, now that we've kind of talked about that other stuff, does it feel like that's what it was about to you?
Could be. I mean, they seem pretty. After we went over all this, I mean, it seems pretty related to each other.
Yeah, and of course, I'm not asking you to agree with me. You can say, no, that just doesn't make sense. And I'm fine with that. What do I know? But that's probably the best I can do in terms of this, is like just trying to, what is the what does the imagery mean? What does it relate to? And it's typically something you're going through, or something you've been through, or something you're afraid is going to happen. We have our different frames of reference of where our hopes and desires and fears and anxieties are focused, past, present, and future. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that that might be the best answer we're going to get. And, you know, if I put this up, with your permission, of course, and someone else may come along and have a completely different understanding, or maybe they're, and I know I'm going to go back and listen to this, and I'm going to realize I forgot to ask something. I'm going to realize there was probably another door I should have rattled. But I think that's probably the best I can do in terms of getting us close to something useful for you. Unfortunately, your own dream didn't have an answer. The dream just told you still have a problem. You probably want to do something about this. In some ways, shit or get off the pot, make a decision, and probably that would end up being a relief. What I would be interested to, you know, if we keep in touch, or you get back to me another time in the future, let me know if you think about this experience, specifically talking to me and the dream itself, and you make a decision and you commit to a path. Let me know if the dream comes back, if a different dream happens, or if some other sense of burden or responsibility or anxiety about the future gets lifted from the act of committing to a direction. Yeah, I would be very curious to hear about that, because I always hope these things are useful, I mean, specifically to you, entertaining to an audience, and educational all the way around. But I want everyone to come out of this experience definitely having a better understanding of themselves, or at least something to think about that's going to give them something useful they can do, a direction to put their efforts.
Yeah. I mean, like you said just a bit ago, like maybe the watchers will have their own take on what this all means.
Yeah, I'd be fascinated to hear a second opinion. So I don't know. I think we've gotten through a lot of content. Again, it's gone on for an hour and a half. I never know how long it's going to take. It seemed like such a short dream, didn't it? And you know, sometimes it takes me a while for the coffee to brew inside my head. Like, I don't always know what I'm trying to do. I'll be honest with you. Even getting to the end of asking you a bunch of questions, going through the second walkthrough, I had no idea. I had nothing, and we got somewhere together. We at least related it to something useful, something real. I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. I hope it was a good experience for you.
Yeah.
All right. Right on. Well, do you have any final thoughts before we sign off and let the audience go on to a new video?
Not really.
Okay. Yeah, that's just fine. Man, a few words, Tavor. So I'm going to go ahead and, thank the audience for coming along with us on another episode of Dreamscapes. And thanks for listening.
Yeah. Cheers.